The quantum scanner in Lieutenant Ryland Pierce's hand chirped an alert as he passed it over the iridescent wall of the derelict space station. Behind him, Nira Tval's bioluminescent markings pulsed with interest, casting a soft blue glow over the ancient metal. "These readings are unprecedented," she said, her melodic voice carrying the slight digital undertone common to all Astrians. "The energy signature suggests this structure predates both our civilizations." Ryland nodded, brushing back his dark hair as he studied the holographic readout. After 5 years of working with the Astrian Science Division, he'd learned to trust their enhanced sensory capabilities. "Command will be pleased. This could be the breakthrough we've been looking for in understanding the precursor civilization." The joint human-Astrian expedition had been tracking strange energy signatures across this sector for months. Finding an intact precursor facility was beyond their wildest expectations. The station hung in the void like a massive crystalline flower, its petals folded inward in eternal winter. Nira's long fingers danced over her own instruments, her silver eyes reflecting the station's ethereal glow. The translucent patches of her skin shifted colors like the surface of a soap bubble, a sign of excitement in her species. "I'm detecting a potential access point 50 meters ahead." The structure's self-repair systems appear to still be partially functional. They made their way carefully along the outer hull, magnetic boots keeping them anchored in the zero gravity. Their environment suits were a study in contrasts, Ryland's bulky human design alongside Nira's sleek Astrian biotech that seemed to flow like liquid metal. The access point turned out to be a hexagonal portal set into the hull, its surface covered in swirling patterns that seemed to move of their own accord. Nira pressed her palm against it, and the patterns responded, spiraling outward from her touch. "Fascinating," she breathed. "The patterns appear to be some form of biological computer interface. The station is reading us." Before Ryland could respond, the portal dilated open with a sound like singing crystal. Beyond it lay a darkened corridor that seemed to absorb their suit lights. "Command, are you receiving this?" Ryland called over the comm. Only static answered. "Looks like the station's hull is blocking communications." "Standard protocol would be to withdraw and wait for backup," Nira observed, though her skin rippled with barely contained curiosity. Ryland smiled behind his faceplate. "True. But we might not get another chance. The station's systems are active, it could shift locations again at any moment." He gestured to the open portal. "Ladies first." Nira's facial markings flickered in what he recognized as amusement. Such a gentleman. She gracefully pushed off into the corridor, Ryland following close behind. The interior was unlike anything they'd encountered before. The walls seemed to breathe, surfaces shifting and flowing like liquid metal. Their boots clicked against flooring that appeared to be some sort of crystalline matrix, spreading ripples of soft light with each step. "The atmospheric readings are stable," Nira reported after consulting her instruments. "Oxygen-nitrogen mix, similar to both our home worlds. Temperature 20 degrees Celsius." They had just begun removing their helmets when a low vibration rumbled through the station. The portal behind them snapped shut with devastating finality. "That's not good," Ryland muttered, rushing back to examine the sealed entrance. The surface was now completely smooth, as if the portal had never existed. Nira's skin had shifted to anxious yellows and greens. "The station's power readings are spiking. I believe we've triggered some kind of automated sequence." The vibrations intensified. Around them, the liquid metal walls began to flow faster, patterns shifting and reforming with increasing speed. The air grew thick with an electric charge that made their hair stand on end. "We need to move," Ryland said urgently, grabbing Nira's arm. "Now." They ran deeper into the station as the corridor behind them began to collapse in on itself, the walls flowing together like mercury. The floor beneath their feet rippled and bucked, nearly sending them sprawling several times. They burst into a vast circular chamber just as the corridor sealed itself behind them. Rylan spun around, heart pounding, but there was no sign of pursuit. The wall was as smooth and seamless as the sealed portal. "Well," he said, trying to catch his breath, "I guess we're committed now." Nira was already scanning their surroundings, her scientific curiosity apparently undiminished by their near-death experience. The chamber was dominated by a massive crystalline structure that rose from floor to ceiling like an abstract sculpture. Its surface rippled with complex patterns of light that seemed to respond to their presence. "Remarkable," she breathed. "This appears to be some kind of biological quantum computer. The energy readings are off the scale." Her silver eyes widened suddenly. "Rylan, look at this, the station isn't just reading us anymore. It's adapting to us." As if in response to her words, the crystal structure pulsed with increasing brightness. The air grew thick with swirling motes of light that danced around them like fireflies. Rylan felt a strange tingling sensation spreading through his body. "Nira," he called out, his voice sounding strange to his own ears. "Something's happening." The last thing he saw before consciousness fled was Nira reaching for him, her skin blazing with patterns he'd never seen before, as the light consumed them both. Rylan awoke to the sensation of something cool and smooth against his skin. His eyes fluttered open to find Nira leaning over him, her silver gaze filled with concern. Her hand rested on his forehead, the translucent patches of her skin emanating a soft, healing glow. "Welcome back," she said softly. "You've been unconscious for approximately 3 hours." He tried to sit up, fighting a wave of dizziness. They were still in the chamber with the crystal structure, but something had changed. The walls seemed more organic now, pulsing with veins of bioluminescent light that matched Nira's markings. "What happened?" he asked, his voice rough. "The last thing I remember. The station initiated some kind of scanning procedure," Nira explained, helping him to his feet. "It was more intense than anything I've encountered before. Your human physiology had a stronger reaction than mine." She paused, her skin rippling with uncertainty. "But that's not the most concerning development." Rylan followed her gaze to his own hands and froze. Beneath his skin, faint patterns of light coursed through his veins, similar to Nira's bioluminescence but with a golden hue. "What the hell?" "The station isn't just studying us," Nira said, running a scanner over his arm. "It's modifying us at a cellular level. I've been monitoring the changes while you were unconscious. Your genetic structure is being rewritten, integrated with something that resembles Astrian biotechnology, but far more advanced." Rylan flexed his fingers, watching the light patterns shift. Strangely, he felt better than he had in years, stronger, more aware. Every sensation seemed heightened. "Is it dangerous?" "I don't believe so. The changes appear to be carefully controlled, almost purposeful." Nira's markings pulsed with excitement. "Rylan, I think this facility might be more than just a research station. The precursors could have been using it to facilitate biological adaptation between species." Before he could respond, the crystal structure in the center of the room hummed to life. Streams of data in an unknown language cascaded across its surface. Rylan was startled to realize he could almost understand it, as if the knowledge was being fed directly into his mind. "You can read it too?" Nira asked, noticing his expression. "The station has enhanced our neural pathways, creating a form of universal translation. But there's something else." She reached out and touched his arm. The moment their skin made contact, Rylan gasped. He could feel Nira's emotions washing over him, her scientific fascination, her concern for him, and something deeper, more personal that she quickly tried to hide. From her startled expression, he knew she could sense his feelings as well. "Some kind of empathic link," she said, quickly withdrawing her hand. Her skin flushed with swirling patterns of violet, embarrassment, he somehow knew. "The modifications must have created a psychic connection between us." Rylan tried to ignore the lingering warmth where she had touched him, focusing instead on the data streaming through the crystal. According to this, we're in something called the convergence matrix. It was designed to prepare compatible species for some kind of transformation. But prepare them for what? Neera wondered, her scientific curiosity overtaking her embarrassment. She moved closer to the crystal, her markings synchronizing with its pulsing rhythms. The data structure is incredibly complex. It could take days to decode all of this. We might not have days, Rylan pointed out. Our oxygen recyclers won't last forever, and we still need to find a way out of here. As if responding to his words, a section of wall rippled and parted, revealing a new corridor. Unlike the previous one, this passage was illuminated by the same bioluminescent veins that now ran through their bodies. Well, that's convenient, Rylan muttered. Think it's showing us the way out? Neera consulted her scanner, though the reading seemed to mean less and less in this strange environment. The energy signatures suggest this leads deeper into the station's core. We might find more answers there, or more trouble. Only one way to find out. Rylan stepped toward the corridor, then hesitated. Neera, about this connection between us. She met his gaze, her silver eyes softening. We should focus on survival for now. But I don't regret being trapped here with you, Rylan. The honesty of her words resonated through their newfound link, accompanied by emotions too complex to name. Rylan smiled, offering his hand. Together, then? Neera took it without hesitation, their mingled bioluminescence casting dancing shadows on the walls. Together. They stepped into the corridor, their joined hands creating patterns of gold and silver light that spread through the station's neural network like ripples in a pond. Behind them, the crystal structure pulsed with increasing intensity, as if pleased by their progress. The convergence matrix had chosen its subjects well, now it was time to see if they could survive its transformation. The deeper they ventured into the convergence matrix, the more Rylan noticed his transformed body adapting to their environment. His footsteps became silent, his movements fluid like Neera's. The golden light beneath his skin pulsed in harmony with the station's rhythms, while his mind expanded to process information in ways that should have been impossible for a human brain. Your cellular structure is becoming more crystalline, Neera observed as they paused in a chamber filled with floating holographic displays. Her scanner hummed as she passed it over his arm. The integration of precursor biotechnology is accelerating. Rylan watched streams of alien data flow through the air around them, understanding it as easily as his native language. I can feel the station's systems now, like they're extensions of my own body. It's beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Through their empathic link, he sensed Neera's mixture of scientific fascination and personal concern. Her own transformation had taken a different path, her natural bioluminescence had intensified, and she seemed able to manipulate the station's biological components with a mere thought. The precursors weren't just studying evolution, she said, her silver eyes reflecting the swirling data. They were guiding it, creating bridges between different species. But why? What was their ultimate goal? Before Rylan could respond, a surge of energy rippled through the station's neural network. The holographic displays flickered and realigned, forming a three-dimensional star map of the galaxy. Countless points of light were connected by flowing lines of force, creating a vast web of interconnected systems. It's a network, Rylan breathed, reaching out to touch one of the glowing strands. The map responded to his touch, zooming in to show similar stations scattered across space. The convergence matrix isn't just one facility, it's part of something much bigger. Neera's markings pulsed with excitement as she studied the map. Each station appears to be calibrated for different species combinations. They were creating an entire ecosystem of hybrid beings, but for what purpose? The answer came in a flood of images and sensations that overwhelmed their enhanced minds. They saw vast cosmic threats lurking in the darkness between galaxies, horrors that could only be fought by beings who had transcended their original limitations. The precursors had seeded the galaxy with their transformation engines, preparing younger races for the battles to come. Ryland staggered under the weight of the revelation, grateful for Neera's steadying hand on his arm. Through their link, he felt her own struggle to process the implications. They knew something was coming, he said softly. Something that would require evolved beings to face it. And now we're part of their plan, Neera added, her voice tight with emotion. But the precursors vanished eons ago. Did they succeed? Did they stop whatever they were preparing for? A distant rumble shook the chamber, and the holographic displays flickered ominously. Ryland's enhanced senses detected a change in the station's energy patterns. Something was wrong. The power core is becoming unstable, Neera announced, her fingers dancing over a control interface that had emerged from the wall. The transformation process is drawing too much energy. If we don't find a way to regulate it soon, the station will tear itself apart, Ryland finished, already moving toward a newly formed corridor. And us with it. Can we shut it down? Neera's skin rippled with uncertainty as she followed him. I don't think so. The process has gone too far. Our bodies are now symbiotically linked to the station systems. If it dies. She didn't need to finish the thought. Through their connection, Ryland could feel the truth of it. Their transformations had reached a point of no return, their survival was now tied to the fate of the convergence matrix itself. They ran through corridors that seemed to form and reform around them, their enhanced bodies moving with preternatural speed and grace. The station's bioluminescent veins pulsed with increasing urgency, matching the racing of their hearts. There. Neera pointed to a massive doorway ahead, its surface covered in complex geometric patterns. That has to be the core chamber. The energy readings are off the scale. As they approached, the patterns on the door began to spin and realign, responding to their hybrid biology. Ryland placed his hand against the surface, feeling the ancient mechanisms respond to his touch. Beside him, Neera did the same, their combined bioluminescence creating a cascade of light that triggered the final lock. The door dissolved into streams of liquid metal, revealing a sight that took their breath away. The core chamber was a vast spherical space, dominated by a writhing mass of crystalline tentacles that converged on a central point of blindingly bright energy. The air itself seemed alive with particles of light that swirled and danced around them. By all the stars, Neera whispered, her scientific detachment cracking in the face of such majesty. This is it, the heart of the transformation engine. Ryland felt it calling to them both, pulling them toward some incomprehensible destiny. Through their link, he sensed Neera's mix of fear and anticipation, matching his own. Whatever happened next would change them forever. Ready? He asked, extending his hand to her once more. Neera's fingers interlaced with his, their hybrid biologies creating patterns of light that rippled through the chamber. Ready. Together, they stepped toward the core, as the station's ancient systems prepared to complete their transformation, for better or worse. The core chamber erupted with surging energy as Ryland and Neera approached the crystalline heart of the convergence matrix. Each step sent waves of sensation through their transformed bodies, pleasure and pain so intertwined they became indistinguishable. The station systems responded to their presence, the writhing tentacles of light bending toward them like curious serpents. The power readings are critical, Neera called out, her voice strained. Her silver eyes had taken on an otherworldly glow, and patterns of light raced across her skin in dizzying combinations. The core is trying to complete our transformation, but something's wrong. Ryland could feel it too. The station's neural network screamed with discord, its carefully calibrated systems falling into chaos. Through their empathic link, he sensed Neera's growing distress as her enhanced mind struggled to process the overwhelming flood of data. It's like the station is fighting itself, he said, pressing his hand against a nearby crystal formation. Golden light flowed from his fingers into the structure, and for a moment he could see the problem with perfect clarity. The original protocols are corrupted. The transformation sequence is incomplete. A violent tremor shook the chamber, sending crystalline shards raining down from above. One of the energy tentacles lashed out wildly, forcing them to dive in opposite directions. Rylan rolled to his feet with inhuman grace, his transformed body responding to dangers before his conscious mind could process them. "Nira," he called out, searching for her through the chaos. "I'm here." She emerged from a curtain of swirling energy, her movements liquid smooth. "But we don't have much time. The core's instability is spreading throughout the station. If we don't stabilize it soon." Another tremor cut off her words, this one strong enough to crack the chamber's floor. Through the fissures, Rylan caught glimpses of impossible spaces, dimensions that shouldn't exist folded in on themselves like origami made of light and shadow. "The station's quantum shielding is failing," Nira announced, her scientific training warring with growing panic. "Reality itself is starting to break down around us." Rylan reached for her across their mental link, trying to project calm despite his own fear. "There has to be a way to fix this. The precursors wouldn't have built all this just to have it fall apart." Nira's eyes widened suddenly. "Wait, maybe that's it. The precursors didn't just transform biology, they transcended it entirely. What if this chaos isn't a malfunction? What if it's a necessary part of the process?" Before Rylan could respond, one of the crystal tentacles wrapped around his waist, lifting him off his feet. Instead of fighting it, he relaxed into its grip, allowing his consciousness to merge with the station's systems. The sensation was overwhelming, like falling into an ocean of pure information. Through eyes that were no longer entirely human, he saw the truth of Nira's words. The convergence matrix wasn't just changing their bodies, it was preparing them for something far more profound. The chaos around them wasn't destruction, it was metamorphosis. "The station isn't breaking down," he called out to Nira, his voice resonating with new understanding. "It's breaking through. We need to complete the sequence." Nira's markings pulsed with comprehension. With fluid grace, she allowed another crystal tendril to lift her until she hovered face to face with Rylan. The air between them crackled with potential. "Are you sure about this?" she asked, though he could feel her own certainty through their link. "Once we cross this threshold, there's no going back. We won't be human or Astrian anymore." Rylan reached out and took her hand, their combined bioluminescence creating a miniature galaxy between their palms. "I'm sure about us," he said simply. "Everything else, we'll figure it out together." The love and trust flowing between them in that moment was almost tangible, a force as real as gravity. The station systems responded to their emotional resonance, the chaotic energies beginning to align into new patterns of impossible complexity. More crystal tendrils emerged from the core, wrapping around them like a cocoon of living light. Rylan felt his consciousness expanding, merging with Nira's in ways that transcended their empathic link. Together, they began to understand what the precursors had discovered eons ago, that reality itself was mutable, and consciousness could exist in forms beyond mere physical bodies. The transformation accelerated, their hybrid forms dissolving into pure energy. Pain and ecstasy blurred together as the very atoms of their being were torn apart and reassembled into something new. Through it all, they held onto each other, their merged consciousness a anchor in the storm of creation. "Don't let go," Nira's thoughts whispered through the maelstrom. "Never," Rylan promised, his identity stretching and shifting but never losing the core of who he was, who they were together. The chamber filled with blinding light as the convergence matrix poured its remaining power into their metamorphosis. Reality buckled and bent around them, new dimensions unfurling like the petals of an impossible flower. On the edge of transcendence, they faced their final choice: to surrender to the transformation completely, or try to hold on to some fragment of their former selves. In that moment of decision, their shared consciousness reached out to touch something vast and ancient that had been waiting for them all along. The true purpose of the convergence matrix revealed itself at last, and the choice became clear. Together, they let go. Consciousness returned slowly, like stars emerging from cosmic dust. Rylan opened eyes that perceived reality in ways his former human mind couldn't have comprehended. The chamber had transformed along with them, its crystalline architecture now pulsing with ordered patterns of multidimensional energy. Beside him, Nira's presence blazed like a silver sun in his expanded awareness. They had survived. More than survived, they had evolved into something unprecedented. Their new forms defied conventional description. Their bodies were composed of crystalline energy that could shift between solid and ethereal states at will. Patterns of gold and silver light danced through their translucent forms, echoing their original human and Astrian natures while transcending both. Their consciousness existed simultaneously in multiple dimensions, allowing them to perceive reality in its true, complex glory. "It's beautiful," Nira's thoughts resonated through their now permanent mental link. "All this time, we thought the precursors had vanished. But they didn't leave, they ascended." Through their enhanced perception, they could see the truth of the convergence matrix's purpose. The station wasn't just a transformation engine, it was a gateway to a higher plane of existence. The precursors had created these facilities not to fight some external threat, but to guide younger species toward a greater understanding of the universe itself. "They're still out there," Rylan realized, his consciousness expanding to touch the vast network they had glimpsed before. All the successfully transformed beings across the galaxy, watching, waiting, helping others make the transition when they're ready. The station systems had stabilized, recognizing them as fully realized beings rather than works in progress. Through their connection to its neural network, they could sense other convergence matrices scattered throughout space, each waiting for compatible species to discover them. Nira's form shifted closer to his, their energies intermingling in a display that would have been breathtaking to their former selves. "We should be trying to find a way back to our people, to report what we've found. But we're not the same people who entered this station," Rylan finished. The thought brought no sadness, only acceptance. "We couldn't go back if we wanted to. Our role has changed." Together, they explored their new capabilities, learning to navigate between dimensions as easily as they once walked down corridors. They could perceive the quantum threads that bound reality together and even manipulate them to a degree. Time itself became more fluid, a river they could observe from multiple perspectives simultaneously. Yet despite their transformation, the core of who they were remained intact. Rylan still felt the curiosity and determination that had driven him to explore the unknown. Nira's scientific mind now had infinite new mysteries to unravel. And their connection to each other had only grown stronger, transcending physical form to become something eternal. "The station is ready," Nira observed, sensing changes in the energy patterns around them. "It's preparing to move to its next destination." Through their link to the facility systems, they could see the quantum engines powering up, preparing to shift the entire structure through dimensions that their former selves couldn't have imagined. Soon, the convergence matrix would appear in another part of space, waiting to guide new beings toward transcendence. "We could stay," Rylan suggested, though he already knew her answer. "Help the next pair that finds their way here." Nira's form rippled with gentle amusement. "We have a greater role to play now. There are others out there, on the verge of their own evolutionary leaps. They'll need guides to help them through the transition." She was right, of course. They could sense them now, countless species across the galaxy approaching the threshold of transcendence. Some would find their way to convergence matrices like this one. Others would need more direct intervention, subtle nudges to help them reach their full potential. "Partners in evolution," Rylan mused, reaching out to intertwine his energy with hers. Their merged consciousness exploded with shared memories, every moment that had led them to this transformation, every choice that had forged their bond. "Always," Nira agreed, her love and commitment resonating through dimensions. With a thought, they opened a portal in the fabric of spacetime. Beyond it lay the infinite possibilities of their new existence. The convergence matrix had given them the tools, now it was their turn to help shape the future of consciousness itself. As they prepared to depart, Rylan took a final look at the chamber where their old lives had ended and their new one had begun. The crystal core pulsed steadily, ready to guide the next pair of beings toward their own transcendence. In a way, their story was ending. But in a much larger sense, it was just beginning. Hand in hand, their crystalline forms blazing with shared purpose, Rylan and Nira stepped through the portal. The universe stretched out before them, full of wonders their former selves could never have imagined. They had entered the station as representatives of two separate species and emerged as something entirely new, living proof that evolution wasn't just about survival, but about reaching toward the infinite together. Behind them, the convergence matrix began its journey to its next destination, carrying within it the promise of transformation for those ready to take that leap. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, two beings of light and crystal went forth to help guide the next generation of cosmic evolution, their love and purpose transcending the very boundaries of existence itself. The end was just the beginning.